In today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement, we're talking about the 5-year rule and some of the biggest misconceptions we hear people say about this. A lot of people are worried about transferring money to a Roth IRA or contributing to a Roth IRA or doing Roth conversions in or near retirement because they're worried about the 5-year rule. I've never had a Roth and I have to be aware of having a Roth for 5 years. We're going to break down everything you need to know about the 5-year rule. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what you need to know to see if this is something that you need to worry about or not worried about. And in most cases, if you are 59 and a half or older, we rarely see that someone is going to have to worry about the 5-year rule. And one of the key considerations here is, hey, I myself am not 59 and a half, in case you didn't know that. And I could contribute to a Roth IRA today, and tomorrow I could take that contribution out and not have to worry about any penalty, any tax, because of how the rules work. So let's break it down here in this video of Joe Knows Retirement.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
So my name is Joe Schmitz. I'm the CEO and founder of Peak Retirement Planning. I wrote a book on taxes called I Hate Taxes, which is an Amazon bestseller. A lot of people love it. If you're looking for more information on tax planning, feel free to request it from us. You can go into the description below, request that book, and we'll send it out to you there so that you can learn more on all the tax planning things you need to know if you're in or near retirement. So especially if you're in your 50s and 60s, there's a lot to know. So let's break it down. So I've got a chart here that you can see up on the screen. You can see there's a lot going on with this chart. This is what we use to help our clients understand if we're making the right decisions from a tax planning standpoint. And so we're going to go through this, line by line, and we're going to break it down so you know exactly what you need to know. Now, let's first start off by understanding the difference between a contribution and a conversion. Now, this is something we get a lot of people to mistake because a lot of people say, hey, I can't do a Roth conversion because I make too much money. No, that's not the case. You can still do a Roth conversion. Or hey, I have to be working to contribute to a Roth IRA. Well, yes, to contribute, but not to convert. There is no limits on a conversion. Or I make too much money, I can't contribute. Yes, that's true. But for a conversion, there is no limits. And I'm from Columbus, Ohio. So for any of you around this area or know college football very well, we always tell people that anyone can do a Roth conversion. It doesn't matter, any of those things I mentioned. It doesn't even matter if you're a Michigan fan, they'll still allow you to do that. And so that is something that we always tell people, is to understand that concept of the difference between the two and know who can do what and who can't do the other. Now, let's break it down with the contribution here first when it comes to the 5-year rule. So if you are doing regular contributions and you're just contributing $5,000 to your Roth IRA, then as I mentioned earlier, you can take that out tomorrow. The biggest thing that comes into play with the 5-year rule that you have to be worried about is the taxation and penalty of potentially the earnings. Now, understand the flow of how it works with the 5-year rule. It always looks at contributions first, and then it looks at conversions, and then it looks at the earnings. And so many cases I shared earlier, this is not even something that we see occur for most people, because most of the time, if they have contributions, then that's going to come out first. So there is no 5-year rule on the contribution, as you can see there in my chart. Now, let's look this out, break this down into the conversion now. So let's say that you held it for 5 years, you did a conversion, and you want to take this out. Is there an income tax? Is there a 10% penalty? There is no penalty. There's no tax in that situation on the conversion amount. So remember, contribution, conversion, and then earnings, which we'll talk about on the other side of this chart. Now, what if you did not hold this for 5 years? What is the situation if you don't hold it? Well, if you're age 59 and a half, so it's going to depend if you're age 59 or if you're not, but if you're age 59 and a half and you have not held it 5 years, there is still no issue with this scenario. And so that's why I always say 5-year rule does not really apply for those that are 59 and a half or older. If you convert $100,000, you could take all of that $100,000 out tomorrow, even if you just started that Roth IRA for the first time at that point. Now, where there is a disclosure where you do have to worry about it is if you are under age 59 and a half and you have not had it 5 years. That's when the 5-year rule can actually come into play. And so in this scenario, you wouldn't have to pay an income tax because you already did, but you would have to pay a 10% penalty on this because of that 5-year rule. So in often cases, if we're doing a conversion, Roth hasn't been open for 5 years, they're under 59 and a half, we're not looking to take it out from the Roth in that scenario. But also, most of our clients aren't looking to take withdrawals from the Roth right now unless it's a very strategic time that they need to do it to maybe stay below a Medicare tier or stay below the Social Security taxation, the torpedo as we always call it. And so you really want to understand that this is typically for more long-term growth. A lot of people like it, the fact that they can move it to their grandkids or their kids or their spouse tax-free. You know, a lot of times people are worried about the widow's penalty that, hey, if you go from married filing jointly to single, you have to pay nearly double the amount of taxes. So a lot of people are using this as almost an emergency fund or more of a future dollar than they are looking to use it within the next 5 years. So obviously there's one-off cases where it can make sense, but just to keep things in perspective for most people that we talk to. So that's the contribution part of it, the conversion part of it. So let's talk next about the earnings side of it. And this is where it really starts to become more complex. But again, that's only the last part of this that most people never even get to or never even have to look at this side of the chart because they never take out more than their contribution or conversion there. And so let's first start off by looking to see if it's held for 5 years or not held for 5 years. So let's look to see if it was held for 5 years and how earnings work. So if you are age 59 and a half or older, then you will pay no income tax and no penalty. And again, the 5-year rule, that's in its perfect scenario where you have no worries at all on any of this money. If you put $100,000 and now it's worth $100,000 in Roth, you've waited 5 years, you're over 59 and a half, you can take all of it out free and clear. Don't know why you would, but you can if you wanted to at this point. And then if you're not age 59 and a half is where it becomes problems with the earnings. In this case, you have to pay income tax on the earnings. Again, you haven't paid taxes necessarily on the earnings, so that's where they'll get you. And then on the 10% penalty, they'll get you as well. And so that's where you really have to pay attention to. If you want all this money early on, then that is going to be a consideration for that. Now, let's look at the earnings if you have not held it for 5 years. And so let's say you just started a Roth, you haven't had this, what issues could you run into? If you're age 59 and a half, then you'll have to pay income tax, but no 10% penalty. The reason there's no 10% penalty is because you've already reached that limit for retirement accounts that after 59 and a half, there's no 10% penalty is ultimately the consideration for that. But there would be an income tax on any earnings there without following the rules. Now, if you're not age 59 and a half, again, big problems whenever you're under age 59 and a half with earnings, you're gonna have to pay income tax and a 10% penalty. So if I put $5,000 into a Roth today and it goes to $6,000 tomorrow, then I can't take out that $1,000 of earning without paying income tax and a penalty, which would be very hefty for someone in my situation. And so that's something I probably wouldn't wanna look to do. And again, in most cases, I'm not looking to touch for my Roth IRA moving forward. So hopefully this is a really good understanding of how this 5-year rule works. Put in the comments below what questions do you have specifically about the 5-year rule that was not able to be covered in this video, because as I said, I wanted to cover everything about the 5-year rule that you need to be aware of to make sure you can plan for. And so we'll reply back to all those comments there that we can. But again, don't let this prevent you from doing something like a Roth contribution or a Roth conversion, as there can still be a lot of advantages to so. So think of this from a bigger picture and see, if you are under 59 and a half, yes, be aware of this. Make sure you're not converting every dollar you have if you have to take it out, but also understand that if you're going to take out money from your IRA under 59 and a half, then you're going to have to pay a penalty on that anyways, unless you have something like a TSP and you are using the Rule 55 or a 401k, where you can take that out without a penalty based on certain rules. But just understand that, you got to understand where you're at in your situation to see what makes sense. And if this is something that you're just really overly worried about and you want to get ahead of it, look to just start up a Roth IRA today. This is something that as soon as you start it up, the clock starts, and there's also some special rules that you could even get almost a full year's advantage there if you started off a certain part of the year, because it goes off of the calendar years versus the actual 5 years from the date you started it. So that could help you in those cases. But again, most times we just don't see this become an issue. And so that's all we've got on today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement, a shorter video here today, but make sure you subscribe for more coming your way. This channel is for those who hate taxes. That's why I wrote the book, as I mentioned earlier, those are Midwestern millionaires who are diligent savers, hard workers, and they are really, really frugal, and that means they're the best savers and the worst spenders. And so a lot of our clients, we're encouraging them, how do you spend more money? What do you do to enjoy more of that retirement? And then obviously we talk about the 2% club very often on this channel. Those with pensions and $1 million plus saved is only 2% of the population. So if you hit those categories, or if you're saying you're speaking exactly to me, hopefully we can continue to add value to this on this channel. But if you subscribe, that will make sure you get reminded when we upload videos each week. So with that being said, have a great evening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Joe Knows Retirement.